All right, so I got a pretty rare clip today that is basically Bernie Sanders on MSNBC, of all places, being pushed from the left, being asked a question, which is really something that a lot of progressives have been asking recently, which is, why the fuck does Joe Manchin, one senator from West Virginia, seem to be the most powerful person in the country? Why could progressives, whether it's in the House with the squad forming a block of voting, or whether it's somebody like Bernie Sanders, why can they not wield their leverage in the exact same way that Joe Manchin has managed to in order to take out progressive legislation? Why can these progressives not use that same leverage in order to include some of these progressive items into some of these packages? We just saw the perfect example with the $15 minimum wage. There's no reason why the $15 minimum wage should not have been included in Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief package, but it wasn't, because basically he didn't want to have to fight Joe Manchin on the $15 minimum wage, and Joe Manchin got his way. And so this is really the first time that I've seen Bernie Sanders ask this question so directly, and I gotta be honest, I didn't really like his answer. We love Bernie, but I gotta criticize him on this, so let's go ahead and listen to what he had to say.
You mentioned the grassroots movement. A lot of frustrated progressives, especially online, and you know this, often ask, why can't you, Bernie Sanders, use the leverage that Joe Manchin often uses to get his own way on issues like the $15 minimum wage or expanding healthcare? Why can't you throw your weight around, they say, threaten to vote against things like Joe Manchin so successfully does?
First of all, if you look at the results of what happened, look, I'm not the president. But I think what most people would tell you is what we did in the rescue plan was the most significant piece of legislation for working class people in the modern history of this country. And we're moving forward in a similar direction. We can't get everything we want. That's simply the reality. Any one person can say no. But right now, I think we are moving forward. We're going to push it as hard as we possibly can. And I'm proud of the direction in which we are moving.
All right, this is not a good answer. It's not even just not a good answer. It's not really an answer at all. The question was very direct, and I give credit to Mehdi Hassan here for asking this question. Why can you, Bernie Sanders, not use the exact same leverage that Joe Manchin has as one senator in the Senate? Why can you not use the exact same type of leverage that he has in order to fight for some of these progressive policies? And Bernie Sanders kind of just says, I don't know, I'll throw my hands up and say, well, we, managed to pass one of the most progressive pieces of legislation in modern history. Is that really saying anything? I mean, who are we comparing this to? In modern history, Obama, who his relief package after the '08 recession, basically every economist said wasn't even nearly enough. He was somewhat of a deficit hawk. Then before him, you had George Bush. Okay, we don't even need to talk about fucking George Bush. Who are we talking about? Bill Clinton? We're talking about Ronald Reagan. We're not exactly having a comparison to big, bold FDR-style presidents. And so it's weird to me how many progressives are championing the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package as like, well, this is the biggest package since FDR. Well, okay, but that's not really saying much, is it? Given who we've had leading our country since FDR. So I think that's a weird line that Bernie Sanders and other progressives have been using. And in addition to that, in another portion of this interview, he brings up like the child tax credit. And yes, there were some really good things that were included in the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package, like the child tax credit, which cuts child poverty in half. And I do that in quotations because it's not permanent. It's just a band-aid. It doesn't get to the underlying causes of why child poverty is so high in the United States. So a lot of what was in the COVID relief package is just a band-aid. It's all temporary. It's not getting to the root causes of some of the underlying structural problems that Bernie Sanders ran on fixing when he was running in the 2020 presidential election. And so I think this is a really good question that was posed to him, and I kind of think he flopped on the answer. He didn't really give a good justification. He said, well, I'm not the president. Well, okay, that wasn't the question. The question was, why can you not wield your leverage in the exact same way as Joe Manchin, who is not the president as well? And he didn't really directly answer this, but I'll answer it for him, okay? The real answer to these questions that he should have been saying is, yeah, Joe Manchin is a corrupt motherfucker. We made a mistake in that last package, letting the $15 minimum wage being taken out. And they kind of gave themselves a shitty situation at the end where because they didn't draw that line in the sand from the beginning and say, I won't vote for this $15 minimum wage unless it is or I won't vote for the COVID relief package unless the $15 minimum wage is included, because they didn't do that at the beginning, once it was clear that the $15 minimum wage was going to be taken out, they didn't really have any time because they needed the unemployment money to go out, and they didn't want there to be a lapse in unemployment benefits going out to people, so they didn't really have the opportunity to put up a fight. But if you actually care about getting some of these progressive items, whether it's, Bernie's recent proposal on taxes, or whether it's Bernie's recent proposal on lowering the Medicare eligibility age, or if it's the $15 minimum wage, the way that you get these passed, I just made a video a couple weeks ago that was literally titled How We Can Pass the $15 Minimum Wage. And it was because of this type of question that Mehdi Hasan was just asking him. All you have to do, and this applies, I'm not just trying to, push on Bernie for this, but also the same exact concept applies to the squad. Get a block of votes together, and before even the negotiations start, say, we will not vote for this package, period, unless it includes this, and this, and among those things could be something like the $15 minimum wage, or really whatever you want to be included in this package. And of course there's going to be pushback, of course there's going to be conversations and debates and stuff like that, but that's when you go on all of these media stations. That's when you use this opportunity, like Bernie had in this clip, and you push back against people like Manchin. You go to the mat and you fight people like Joe Manchin. Because guess what? On all of these policy issues that we're talking about, the overwhelming majority of the American people are on Bernie's side. The overwhelming majority of the American people are on the side of the policies that people in the squad are fighting for. So utilize that. Leverage public support of your policy agenda in order to take on some of these fights. Don't just let Joe Manchin dictate the terms of the conversation. If that is the case for the entirety of Joe Biden's presidency, then we're not really going to get much progressive legislation passed, are we? And I get it, it's Joe Biden, he's not a progressive, and you do have to contend with some of these conservatives within the Democratic Party, but at least go to the mat and fight for these things. For him to just say, oh, well, this is the biggest progressive package. Well, Bernie, I know that you don't agree that this is all that we can do. I know that you would have gone further. And so, you saw the chyron there at the bottom of the screen, Sanders on the $2 trillion infrastructure bill. So Joe Biden is proposing a $2 trillion infrastructure bill. Okay, that is about half, or even way less than half, of what the American Society of Civil Engineers estimates that we need in order to get our infrastructure up to a grade of a B. It currently sits at about a C-. So if the American Society of Civil Engineers says we need about $5 trillion over the next 5 years, Joe Biden proposing $2 trillion over the next 8 years, which is, by the way, 1/3 of what we spend yearly on our military budget, then that's clearly not enough. That's clearly not even remotely close to enough to tackle infrastructure and to tackle climate change as well. So use this next infrastructure package. The fact that it's going to be pushed through the process of budget reconciliation and you only need to work within the Democratic Party, use that to your advantage, leverage public support, and do exactly what Joe Manchin has been doing. Draw that line in the sand and force these progressive policy items through.